You're watching UFL targets around the Las Vegas Raiders in June. You're a sicko, and I appreciate that. Hit that subscribe button because if you're that type of Raider fan that doesn't care what this show is going to be talking about, you just want to know what's going on around the silver and black, I promise you, we're going to keep you up to date all off season long. Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Reporting. Coming up on today's show, we're going to look at some of the top UFL players that the Las Vegas Raiders could be interested in potentially signing. I saw some news from one of my guys, and I just wanted to be able to sit up here, talk about it a little bit, because according to Tristan Kuhn on Twitter, the Las Vegas Raiders are going to be a team that's interested in potentially signing a UFL player. They're going to be bringing in some guys. So all I'm really going to be sitting up here doing is kind of think of this show as a very similar to UDFA tracker, UDFA signings. I'm not going to sit up here and act like I know a lot of these players inside and out, but what we are going to do is I'm going to roll through each of the teams in the UFL and simply just tell you some of the better players and which guys I think Pete Carroll and John Spytek could potentially be interested in. Something that I hope that y'all are interested in is our awesome sponsor, Panda Sups, and he's got some new stuff. I'll tell you about it here in a little bit, but use code Raiders for 20% off at pandasups.com, and if anybody spends over $125, you're going to get free shipping and free creatine. Creatine, I think, is actually one of the most important supplements you can take if you're trying to add some muscle. So let's go to some of these UFL teams, and I'm just going to do these no in particular order. We're going to start with the Arlington Renegades, and I actually had the opportunity to watch a little bit of the Renegades from time to time since I live down here in Dallas. Now, when you think about the Raiders, first thing I looked for when I thought about UFL teams, I go, which teams had team captains? Because the Raiders drafted, 11 guys. 9 of those 11 players that they drafted were team captains. Between Luis Perez, Sal Canella, who actually was also a UFL first-teamer, and then Ani Harris, hopefully I pronounced that one right. This is the guy that I want to focus on, and I know that he's a USC guy, so I always wonder if USC's got any connections at all this past season at the UFL. 46 tackles, 3 interceptions, 12 PPUs. Is a little bit of a smaller guy overall, but all UFL team. And a lot of the players that you're going to see on this video is me not necessarily pointing out guys that really truly stuck out. This is more about what the Raiders need. So you're going to see a lot of corners. You're going to see a lot of linebackers potentially, like a guy like Donald Payne, who graded out as one of the highest players according to PFF in UFL. Definitely a bit of an undersized linebacker, 66 tackles last season. But because the Raiders have been looking to add linebacker depth, I figured, hey, let's put in Donald Payne here. Let's go to the Birmingham Stallions next up here on the Raiders report. And with the Stallions, I had a few extra names. The first name that I'm going to bring up here is a Dion Kane wide receiver. He's like 28 years old, and he played at Clemson. And he's actually been on so many other practice squad teams throughout the NFL. The reason why I have Kane on here, he's long, he's lanky, he's athletic. He also provided a lot of special teams value this past season for the Stallions. Stephen Gilmore, we're going to throw him in here. A little bit of an undersized corner, 5'8", 174 pounds. 10 PBUs, 1 interception comes from Marshall. Threw him in there. I saw another name, and it recognized, when I see certain UFL names, I'm always like, oh, shit, I forgot about that guy. Bradley Anai, he does weigh a little bit more than 174 pounds. He's a defensive end. That's on me. You can blame Audi at Dallas for all the shit they put me through today. That's why I got that one wrong. 15 tackles. He's 234 pounds. 4 sacks, 6 tackles for loss. I remember watching him a lot during Utah. More players here rolling in. I saw another guy by the name of Trey Norwood, and this was just more from a safety perspective, where if the Raiders are a little bit concerned about a Chris Smith, maybe they don't know exactly what they have in a Trey Taylor, and I know that the Raiders during rookie minicamp brought in a lot of safeties from a special team standpoint. Let's go to another player here, Perrion Winfrey, though when I built this entire show, I was thinking about all these UFL players, and Chuck goes, hey, man, Perrion Winfrey, he signed with the Dallas Cowboys today. But then the other reason why I really wanted to do this show is because there's a lot of UFL talk, and quite frankly, I would like to stay in the know, and because there's so many players UFL, also a former Raider ended up getting signed, which we'll talk about here in just a little bit. But let me know down below. It's going to be the pinned comment here on today's show. Will the Raiders sign a UFL player, yes or no? And you see that little note down there? That one's from Chugs. If you're going to say yes, and if you're going to watch a UFL video on June 18th, go above and beyond. little extra brownie points. Comment who you think that's going to be. Please let me know down below why you're going to hit with that YouTube ad break. Let's go to the DC Defenders. They're next up here on the list here for Las Vegas. And one of the top names that I saw was Yasir Durant, 6'7", 330 pounds. And the reason why this is somebody that you got to consider, he was 2025 All-UFL team, so think about that. The Raiders also brought in a gigantic offensive lineman last week, so that tells me that they're looking for offensive linemen that have that length, that just have that build. And if this is a team that's looking to mold some of these bigger offensive linemen, Yasir Durant, first team again, All-UFL team. Let's go to the quarterback who was the MVP of the league, and I don't think that this is going to be somebody that obviously would make the roster, but what I really thought about when I did this video is, all right, well, what are some of the things that the Raiders have done in the past? Speaking of the past and speaking of UDFAs, they brought in Haj Malik Williams during rookie minicamp, so I wonder if maybe they're looking for a little bit more of an athletic quarterback. Let's go to Joseph Wallace here, defensive tackle, and we know that this silver and black team has been looking for big guys on the interior, and yes, 5'10", 290, I mean, that's literally like, that's Cullen, if you could imagine him as a defensive tackle. But All-UFL team, and if the Raiders are concerned about maybe some of that defensive tackle depth due to Christian Wilkins, if another injury pops up, Wallace is somebody to keep in mind. Anthony Hines coming in here next, and he had a phenomenal season at linebacker. 53 tackles, 3 sacks, 5 tackles for loss. Again, All-UFL team this past year. I look for a lot of special teamers. That's what I look for. Guys that can play special teams. And I know the Raiders like a lot of the linebackers that they have to play special teams. Derek Robertson, next name up here, he is a super skinny defensive end. I know we got him listed at 247. I was looking at some other sites. Some places had him even lighter than that. And, you know, when you're talking about this small of a player that went to a small school, there is a lot of growth there. But, you know, at the same time, the Raiders like guys that they feel like that they can mold. 5.5 sacks last season. Maybe you just add somebody in again during June, right before training camp, to see how it goes. Let's go to the Houston Roughnecks, and this is where that former Raider is going to get mentioned, and it is Damon Arnett. And I don't know if you guys saw, he ended up signing with the Houston Texans, and I was sitting there going, well, shit, like if Arnett can sign with a football team, then anybody can potentially sign with a team. And, you know, for Arnett, he's getting another opportunity, first-round pick in the 2019. Is it 2019? No. Same draft with Henry Ruggs. What is that, 2020? I'm trying to block out that whole year in general. 19th overall pick, but he gets another opportunity in Houston. Let's go back to the Raiders here and some players that I think that they could be interested in. Marvin Moody, linebacker, played at Tulane, 6'2", 230 pounds. Moody had a really solid year, according to PFF, 65 tackles, 3 PBUs. Let's go to Keenan Isaac, and out of all the names that I'm going to bring up today, Keenan Isaac might be low-key the number one that you got to keep in mind, because this was somebody that Spytek and the Buccaneers had interested in last season. Also, the Raiders were interested in him at the beginning of this year during the waiver period. 26 tackles, 9 PBUs, long, lanky, athletic corner. Keenan Isaac is a sneaky, sneaky name to keep in mind. Let's go to Leon O'Neal Jr., defensive back. Played at Texas A&M, 46 tackles, 3 PBUs. And unlike Moody and unlike Isaac, Leon O'Neal Jr., who is a safety, he also was able to make that All-UFL team this past season. So coming up here next, we got more potential UFL players, and I know this is a little bit of a different style of show, but at the same time, you know, I don't watch the UFL all that much. We watch from time to time here when it comes on television, but I really looked at players that stuck out at the UNFL, players that we could potentially bring in, and then overall team needs. Something that I need is I need to try to get rid of this beer gut before my honeymoon, which, crazy enough, is in about 25 days. And the place that I always trust to help me get in shape is Panda Sups. And guess what? They got a brand new premium whey protein isolate. And I want you to listen up, because the Fuel ISO protein is here in 3 amazing new flavors. Treat yourself to the same delicious, high-quality fuel you're obsessed with, now in a faster-absorbing, ultra-lean formula that delivers maximum protein with macro-friendly flavor explosions, making it a total delight to hit your daily goals. You want to hear these flavors? We're talking about peanut butter cookies, which, that sounds absolutely gas, chocolate brownie whip, which, oh my goodness, I'm drooling right now, and then, luckily you guys can't see because Chugs is making a mess. We got toasted honey graham. I'll tell you what, honey bun, I would love to put this in my mouth, giggity. 25 grams of protein, 100% pure whey isolate. We're talking about 110 to 120 calories, 0 grams of sugar, and for a limited time, when you spend $125, you're going to get free creatine and free shipping. I should say this is for the United States domestic. But code Raiders, 20% off, pandasups.com. That link's going to be available to y'all down in the comments and down in the description of today's show. Let's go to the Memphis Showboats. They're next up here on the list, and unfortunately for the Showboats, they didn't have a great year, and they only have one name on this list. It's Lance Boyking, cornerback, 6'2", long, lanky, 200 pounds, 27 tackles, 5 PBUs last season for the Memphis Showboats. Let's go to the Michigan Panthers next up here on the show, and you think about Michigan, a lot of Michigan ties with this new regime. First name I'm going to throw out is Bryce Perkins, who was Offensive Player of the Year in the UFL. And everything, like I said earlier, about Hajj Malik Williams is exactly why I'm bringing up Bryce Perkins here. Maybe the Raiders want to have a more athletic quarterback instead of a guy like Carter Bradley. Next name is Ryan Nelson, a massive human being, again, at offensive tackle. 6'6", 325-pound, all-UFL team. Let's go to the next name here, offensive guard Jacob Burton. Baylor. Think about how many players the Raiders brought in from Baylor as some of their UDFAs, and because he was one of the best offensive guards, maybe if the Raiders decide to add a little bit of extra depth there, who knows? Maybe they move on from a Dylan Parham. Maybe they don't have the utmost trust yet in a Caleb Rogers. Maybe they want to move on from Thayer Munford. That's where Burton could fit in. Let's go to Arnold Tarpley III, defensive back from Vanderbilt, safety, made the all-UFL team, and when I read up on some of his notes, there was actually a lot of scouts when he was coming out of college that said that they thought that he was actually going to be a pretty good gunner in the NFL. I'll admit, you already have this guy, I would say, in a Trey Taylor, so maybe Arnold doesn't make all that much sense. The final name I'm going to bring up here is Kendrick Whitehead, and this is going to be Kedrick Whitehead, and he was Special Teams Player of the Year, 2025 UFL team, and because he plays corner, I'm not looking for a guy that's going to play corner. And again, if we're trusting a UFL dude to play cornerback for a football team in the NFL, you're going to be upset, right? And that's just the bottom line. But when you can find guys that can help you out on special teams, that is really where I think a UFL player can make it. And Whitehead did just win Special Teams Player of the Year. So before we get into some more UFL players here, I'm going to be honest. This Tuna Top 5 is going to be brought to you by my wife, Alex. We were sitting at Audi Dallas today, and I want you all to tune into the show on Friday. That's where I'm going to vent about how horrible of an experience I had today, which is why this video is coming out a little bit later. But what is your favorite movie of all time? And again, this is not my list. This is my wife's list. So please let me know down below. Alex's top 5 movies are How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Guess that didn't work. Because I Said So. I've heard that a lot. Haven't seen it. 13 going on 30. Devil Wears Prada, which I realize I spelt that wrong. And then Freaky Friday. Those are Alex's top 5 movies. I'll tell you this. Honestly, Devil Wears Prada, Dad, probably sounds a little bit better for this show. It probably sounds a little bit better. I want to know, though, down below what your favorite movie is. Don't do it for me. Do it for Alex, but also do it for the Great Tuna. Let's go to the San Antonio Brahmas? Yikes, Mitch. Jordan Mosley is going to be the name I bring up here first. Safety. Played football at Maryland. And anytime I see somebody that's a little bit older, that's got some Maryland ties, I know that the Raiders wide receiver coach Chris Beatty is a receiver coach, not a DB guy, but I wonder if there's some overlap there. Tavonta Beckett is going to be the next name here. Linebacker, did make the all-UFL team. 77 tackles from Marshall, 4 PBUs, 0 INTs. Now, let's go to the final team here, the St. Louis Battlehawks. And this was a team that I thought was interesting because they didn't necessarily name a team captain for the whole year. The St. Louis Battlehawks did this in kind of a smart way where they named like captains by individual games. And I'll be real with you, there's only probably 1 or 2 names from this entire list that you're going to be able to say, all right, like that makes some sense why we could go out and get him. But in total, the St. Louis Battlehawks had 14 total team captains this season, and just because the Raiders value team captains is why I put them on this show. Let's go to Willie Harvey. He was somebody I wanted to highlight. Linebacker, all UFL team, 58 tackles, 3 PBUs, 1 interception, 3 tackles for loss. Played a little bit of Iowa State football. I was going to say Big 12, which probably at the time that he was playing was Big 12 football, but now I don't even know what the Big 12 is anymore. Let's go to Travis Feeney. Linebacker, played at Washington, 37 tackles, a pass breakup. Another player that overall, I thought showed a lot of life, good PFF grade overall. Quinterio Cole is also a name that actually got brought up last season a few times on the Raiders report. 43 tackles, 5 PBUs. And then the final name here, we're going to call him PETA. He won Defensive Player of the Year for the UFL, 27 tackles, a PBU, linebacker, defensive end, edge hybrid. And I know that Patrick Graham likes these type of players a lot. So at the end of the day, if you're a UFL player and you want to make it on this team, you got to help us out, in my personal opinion, either A, on the defensive line, because you can never have too many of those dudes, on the offensive line, because we value the trenches, linebacker, or in the secondary on special teams. If you don't really bring that to the table, I think it's going to be really tough for you to make this squad. Before we get out of here, if you're trying to get in our Raiders Report Fantasy Football League, 12-team league, MVP for whoever bangs the most in the month of June, or if you're trying to get in and you're not able to watch live, $5 super thanks, and we're going to get you in.